awkward piece of land, parkland, the ditch. You know, I don't have to tell a lot of you what's going on with that. The procedures that we have to go through next are absolutely amazing. And as far as yes, I wanted to take a look at it. I'm just going to give you a couple of things. We are in the process right now of preparing 3 staff reports for each of the applications. Huge in this is a traffic study that was just done. Those results will be forthcoming. And I can't talk about that. That's maybe the beauty or the vein of my job. But these petitions will have to go to the planning board and ultimately to the city commission. This is a comp plan change. This has a supermajority vote. We are a long way. And as far as I'm concerned right now, this issue has so many moving parts that I can't tell you what I'm going to do down the road. It's a long time coming, but they have proffered to work with us. We don't know what's going to happen when we get the transportation stuff.
Okay, can you address the value, the assessed value difference?
Well, that's what was that, 3.2? I think I'm trying to get my numbers straight here.
And the question was, how do you justify selling it for half of its appraised?
Oh, well, you're talking about because of what they proffered for fixing the ditch that would cost over $1 million in doing. So, excuse me?
I am caught, I'm sorry.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Double talk.
Susan, if you don't behave, I'll throw you out.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy.
Susan, what is your evaluation of the job performance of the new city manager and the new police chief?
Well, he's had a lot to deal with in a very short time, and it's hard to evaluate until he gets past the crisis management mode. We went for a year without a city manager, and since he's come in, it's been one crisis after the other with somebody who has an economic plan constantly suing the city. So he's trying to solve a lot of difficult problems, including the lack of management for a year, and it's hard to evaluate without giving him a little bit more chance to perform.
And the new police chief? And the new police chief?
I think she is doing well. She's been out in the community quite a bit, and a lot of people like her, and I've been to a lot of community meetings where police officers give reports, and they seem a lot more enthusiastic about their jobs now that Chief DePino is here. I'm anxious to see who the new deputy chief will be also.
Thank you. Richard? Name a development project or land use proposal which was approved by the City Commission in the last 4 years that you would have voted against. Name one that was rejected by the City Commission that you would have voted for, and explain why for each.
I think the one, I've got a big mouth, I don't usually use this.
Well, you're being recorded, so you need to use the microphone.
Yes. I think the one that was rejected that I probably would have been in favor of was the project over on Whitaker Bayou, Charles Githler's project for the new marina. I didn't think there was much reason for rejection. I think it would have put something good and vital on the North Trail. It would have been mixed use in terms of condos and hotels. It would have brought more people in. Would have created a lot more jobs. I just didn't really see that much of a reason for rejection. I didn't buy the arguments that the boats were going to be too big and there'd have to be dredging and it would keep people up at night. It just didn't really go along with that. And I'm sorry.
One that you would have, one that was rejected that you would have voted for, and one that was passed that you would have voted against.
If it was passed, I probably wouldn't have voted against it.
You're going to use the same example? You're going to use the same example?
If it was passed, I wouldn't vote against it. I can't give you an example.
Okay. I'm going to go to the questions from the audience and the members at this point. This is a yes or no for each, for all of the candidates. Sarasota citizens approved campaign finance reform charter amendments by the highest percentage of any charter amendments in the history of our city. Yes or no, will you bypass these rules by accepting support from PACs or electioneering communications operations ECOs? Start with Suzanne.
Well, I'm just saying, a couple of my endorsements are small. You talking about realtors and Gulf Coast Builders Exchange as far as PACs? Or are you talking about something else? Because otherwise I'd say yes. I've accepted PAC money.
Yes or no is.
Yep.
I campaigned for that. I was the chair of the committee. The answer is no.
I have accepted PAC money, yes.
City staff proposes to lift limits on developers' traffic and to sharply reduce what they pay for their traffic impacts.
Kathy, I'm sorry, I can barely hear you.
I'm sorry. City staff proposes to lift limits on developers' traffic and to sharply reduce what they pay for their traffic impacts by repealing present concurrency rules. Do you agree, and why or why not? If you think buses are the answer to the traffic congestion this will create, how do you answer those who point out that buses get caught in traffic also? We'll start with Suzanne.
Sure, buses, and I understand that, buses do get caught in traffic, but I do support this, and I do support the mobility fee that we're looking at under the Let's Get Sarasota Moving initiative, which I strongly support because it's very progressive. It's looking at a way to get the impact that development downtown has on the community by a multimodal fee that goes to everything, many areas, very flexible, so that it's all the money isn't going out into the suburbs for road widening. That's something that I'm very supportive of. It doesn't necessarily mean cars are part of multimodal, but I really support that, and I don't think, and I know we can talk about that, and but I really believe that this multimodal fee, a mobility fee, multimodal task is going to work really well when we really get it tuned.
This is so incomplete that it's impossible to understand if it limits concurrency, but it seems to. It seems to pass the cost onto the citizens and the taxpayers. And to the extent that it passes the cost onto the citizens and taxpayers, rather than the people who are developing the property, I oppose it. With regard to multimodal transportation, I am very much in favor of multimodal transportation. I would like to see us spend some time in the mobility plan talking about complete streets, bike paths, sidewalks, and pedestrian activity.
Thank you. Richard?
I'm also a fan of the multimodal world. I walk, I use my bike, I drive downtown and everything else, but I'm also a believer, having been a city kid most of my life, that when you have the opportunity to live, work, and play in the same basic area, then you don't need the cars. I lived in New York for years and years and years, never had a car. I walked all over the place. If you have more density downtown, you have more job creation downtown, you don't need the cars. It becomes fairly environmentally positive. If you're downtown, and also, you know, more density, it's less of a strain on our infrastructure. So when you talk about concurrency in the city proper, I'm not sure it's 100% relative. As you get farther out and people have to use their cars more, then it's a different kind of discussion. But I would like to see more people living, working, playing in a more compact and walkable area, particularly downtown.
Thank you. Do you agree with Richard Dorfman's statement Saturday on the Phil Granby radio show? You can't just listen to the white-haired ladies that come down to the commission meetings every day and argue, no, 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 no. You can't do anything. You can't depend upon people who are in the the city. They want things to stay the way they absolutely are. They are the past. They're not the future. And what I'm asking you is whether or not you agree with that statement. Suzanne?
No, I don't agree with that. I could have white hair. I highlighted it. I know, I highlight it, but I do. And because I choose to, but I don't. I mean, we really, need to understand that a lot of different people come down, and I understand that a lot of people, a lot of the neighborhoods, I mean, we have some unbelievably gorgeous neighborhoods, and there's a lot of passion for keeping it. And by the way, a lot of those people that come down are not all they're not all against change. I just think it's how they want it changed, how they want, whatever, all these issues that we were talking about tonight, how do we modify to that? How do we have a balanced approach to it? No, because I'm getting at that point where I identify I'm an aging person, but it doesn't mean that I am closed off to downtown Sarasota, to the county, to everything, because I've lived a certain way. And I don't believe that's true about everybody. I really don't think you can make that blanket statement, so, no.
Thank you.
I think it really hurts governing when we treat groups in our community with contempt. I think we should always try to treat people with respect and listen to their issues and work together. Making contemptuous statements really does damage us in our ability to govern. And I don't think that older residents of our community say no, no, no. I think that older residents of our community often give a lot of time and effort and study and wisdom to our community, and I think we should honor them as important members of our community, as important contributors, as people who sometimes have the time and passion that younger people don't. That doesn't mean that people are saying no, no, no. For example, it's been said that we have a culture of no in this community when we just favor correct planning principles. That is not the culture of no. It's the culture of a livable city.
Richard, I'm not going to expect you to answer that.
I'm happy to expound on it.
I don't want you to expand on it. Let's go to answer questions.
I would like to answer. You're using my quote to work against me. I think I should be able to speak to my quote.
I do too.
Everybody raise your hand that thinks they should be able to address it.
Look, I made the quote, I didn't specifically mean white-haired old ladies, only white-haired old ladies. I was referring to people who might have gray hair because they reach a certain age in their life. Many of them dye their hair, many of them wear glasses or whatever. But the point I was trying to make is, since I've been going to commission meetings over the last 4 years, basically you're seeing the same group of people expounding on their policies. Those are the people that come out over and over again, and they seem to say the same thing, and they do say no. They will say no to Walmarts. They will say no to the Githler development. They will say no to this, that, and everything else for the sake of saying no. There doesn't seem to be a balance of yes and no. And the people that are out working for a living, the young people who live on the North Trail, for example, that I speak to all the time, saying, yeah, we want more amenities in the city. We want the city to grow. But they do not get the opportunity because of whatever their schedules are. They don't get the opportunity to go out and express themselves. I mean, God bless these people who are able to come out to the commission and fight their corner. Their corner happens to be, for the most part, opposite of what mine is. But what I've seen has been a pretty consistent group of people, consistently with the same point of view, which is basically opposing growth, opposing business, and basically opposing pretty much everything that is going to move Sarasota forward, as opposed to being a pretty much stagnant entity.
Thank you. I'm going to stick with you on that because there's another question on the same radio program. You were heard actively participating in a radio program where the sitting commissioners, including your own declared teammate, Suzanne Atwell, were rudely dismissed in most uncivil terms. If you were elected, would we continue to hear this disrespect of your fellow commissioners from you and your supporters?
First of all, I did not refer to anybody disrespectfully. All right, Phil Brandy, the moderator of the show, said what he said. It's his show and it's his right. I did not agree with him, I did not concur with him, and I did not address anybody disrespectfully. And if I'm at the commission table, I would comport myself honorably. I don't need to take cheap shots at people.
Okay. What responsibility does the city have to the citizens of the northeast section of Sarasota for development and/or redevelopment while providing recreation park areas in a safe and environmentally friendly manner? Suzanne?
We just, a great deal. I was just at a housing authority meeting this afternoon with our city manager talking about the homeless, some of the homeless practices at Avon Park and how we can learn from what they're doing as far as getting homes for some of the chronically homeless. But as far as the north, in my State of the Cities report last year, not only the $23 million grants that have gone in, the HUD money, that have gone into Newtown, the things I could just list, and I have a whole list, whether it's Booker, whether it's Janie Poe, Janie's Gardens, Robert Taylor, Storefront, all the money that we've put in and the jobs that we've created in Newtown. Are you specifically saying North Sarasota or Newtown?
Northeast is what the person wrote.
Okay, well, and the North Trail,
I would think northeast is different from the northwest.
What in particular? 301, the major,
East of 301.
the major highway that we just completed. Are you talking about up there at 301 and MLK?
I didn't write it.
Oh, I'm sorry. You were.
I didn't write it either, but northeast part of the city.
Right.
The other side.
And you're talking about what neighborhood? You're talking about a whole bunch of neighborhoods.
The northeast.
Yeah. You're talking about what the development and what we've done up there?
You want me to read the question again?
I'm trying to understand the question here.
What responsibility does the city have to the citizens of the northeast section of Sarasota for development and/or redevelopment while providing recreation park areas in a safe and environmentally friendly manner? And I think you could consider that to the east of 301.
Can't be east of 301.
The same-
It could be south of 301.
It's got to be on 41.
The same as we would do with any other neighborhood, that we would look, I'm sorry.
No, I'm trying to
Okay.
get my geography.
Yeah.
It's got to be east of 41.
Well, look, whatever. Our
301's
goal,
in
and
the
we,
county.
as an at-large commissioner, we are all vying for an at-large commission job, that we have the same sense of whatever we're going to do, that we would hold the same standards for economic development all over the city, of course.
Should we all answer that? Or?
Yes.
There have been a lot of efforts in Northeast with regard to infrastructure, with regard to schools, with regard to the Robert Taylor Center, with regard to the Newtown Overlay District. We need to focus on the Marianne Anderson brownfield and work for redevelopment of that in a reasonable way. I don't know that the rezoning that allows for residential development there is a good idea, but I do think that we as a city need to look at mitigating that property in order to make it developable in a reasonable way. It's a very problematic area. With regard to employment, we need to focus a lot on the employment issue because there is such high unemployment in that area. There have been things such as the VOTEC, but they don't call it the VOTEC anymore. The program up on Martin Luther King, and that's very good for job retraining and giving opportunities. But with regard to economic development, the main thing we have to do is make sure that the infrastructure supports any economic development.
Thank you, Richard.
Again, I said it earlier, and for me, the most important thing to get North Sarasota, and specifically Newtown and the environs around it, is job creation. And job creation, we've got to be able to have a legislative environment that allows people to come in and create business. We've got to do the zoning tweaks, we've got to do whatever sort of tax abatement programs, whatever. We've just got to make it easier for people to go to work. I don't believe the government and government programs are going to solve the difficulties we have in North Sarasota. I believe jobs will, and people taking paychecks back into their communities and spending their money in their communities, and small businesses sprouting up because people actually have the capacity to spend in their communities. To me, it's all about job creation, and that is what's going to take North Sarasota, get them moving, get things going forward. To me, it's a difficult problem with a simple answer. How do we get the job creation going? Again, if it's in terms of incentives, zoning changes, whatever. But to me, until we can get people jobs and get money in their hands to spend, we're going to have a very, very difficult time making significant change.
Thank you. This is final two questions for all of the candidates. With its budget growing explosively, what changes to city operations will you promote to get the cost of city government under control?
Well, it's hard. We are coming up in July. We start with our new budget hearings. And there are a lot of, we can think of it many different ways. As I said before, we have a problem with our non-bonded debt. We've got a pension situation that is skyrocketing. That's one of the biggest issues that we're going to face. However, I do believe the city is not broke. Last year we had a pretty flat budget that we passed. This year, a city is broke if expenses and revenue don't jive. That's not where we are. We have a very long-term obligation that we have to deal with. There are many scenarios that we may have to come up with. I have a problem with scraping the bone of the staff any more than we've done. We've cut it by 20, 24, 25, 26% the last year. How much more can we do more with less? Our staff is in almost a reactive mode rather than a proactive. I have a problem with that. Raising the millage is an issue for a lot of people. Even the rollback is an issue with a lot of people. Our revenue